Hey guys, this is Shay Jose and I'm coming back to you with another tutorial today. Today we'll be covering the awesome track that came out last year, which was Flame by Artbat. I'll give you a little preview of the project and then we'll try and break down the lead and actually what's involved. Yeah, that's the preview of the track and I guess the presets. So one of the things to take into consideration with Artbat is they actually tend to use quite simple shapes in their leads from analyzing their work. However, the variation really comes down in the automation, whether that's opening and closing the cutoff, the resonator, and actually using echo and delay in a very interesting manner to actually breathe some life into their production. So that's really what kind of sets them apart from most of the other producers. The technical components that set them apart is really being able to use those automations in a very interesting manner. So let's get cracking into the project and the lead. So first of all, I just created a rack here. I've actually got two instances of Serum running. One's running a lower octave, which is a little bit lower in volume. So we'll just take you through the first patch, and so you're aware, this will be available for download as part of my Patreon program. So what I'll do, let me just open up a new instance of Serum down here, and we will create the patch. Alright, so let's get started. Artbat, as far as I'm aware, work a lot with a Prophet as one of their main synths. So what we'll do is actually go into this first oscillator here in Serum, go down to Analog and go down to Saw Rounded. Now this will give you the basic kind of crappy sounding saw sound. However, we need to tweak these. The first thing to do is actually put both oscillators with a saw rounded shape in them both, and what we need to do is actually just move the wave position all the way to the right. We'll do the same on the second oscillator. Oops, saw rounded would help, not square. There you go. And what we need to do is actually look at having one of the saw waves have a lot more voices while the other stays in a single unison. So we'll move the second oscillator to about 15 voices of unison. And what we'll do, we'll leave the phase and we'll leave the band as they are. Next, we'll move on to the noise oscillator and we choose AC hum. Which is the first option that you will get there. Next off, we will look at the envelope. Now there's just a slight smidget of release in that envelope, which is actually going to give you that kind of sustained notes, and we will use the second envelope to be able to actually control some of the other parameters within the synth itself. So let's move on to envelope 2. What we'll do here, we'll put the attack, we'll leave it at 0.5, hold, we'll leave it as it is. The sustain, we might put this up to 1.07 or thereabouts. Open up a little bit more, that didn't quite work. And then we'll just lower the sustain. This is going to give us a bit more of a pluckier sound. There you go. And we just might open up the release just a little bit to say maybe about 90 milliseconds or thereabouts. So you can already start to hear that's giving us that more of a kind of longer sustained pluck. BPM, we'll leave it all as it is. The rate, we'll leave that off. We will be controlling the LFO effect externally, so I'll show you how to do that afterwards. But we'll leave all this as it is. Nothing on the filter, we'll leave that completely turned off. And the only other thing to look at, I don't think I've actually set this, no. Okay, so if we go into the Hyperdimension, Make sure you turn down the mix all the way to 0 and bring down the size to about 15%, and the mix to around about 35-34%. The detune, you can leave this as it is, you can leave the rate as it is. We'll add a little bit of distortion to this. We'll put some sine fold, which is here, and we'll bring down the drive a little bit, and this should give us a little bit more grunt on the sound. Now we want to look at setting this. Bring this down slightly, a little bit more, to about 8%. There you go. You can already start to hear that that's kind of getting there. Now what we will do is add a little bit of chorus. Now you can do this all with external plugins depending on your DAW, but I just thought I'll add them into the actual patch and see if it actually, you know, in case you don't have it, or you prefer to have it all in here, you can use it. Otherwise you can turn some of these effects off and actually treat them externally if you have, you know, your preferred chorus, VST or something like that. Anyways, we'll go down to the chorus option. The rate will leave as it is, delay will leave as it is, delay 2, depth will bring down to about 3 milliseconds, sounds about right. The feed will put it up to about half, and then the low pass filter will set it to nearly fully open. Now we'll bring down the mix completely. Actually, no, we'll open that mix to about 74-75%. You can already hear that the noise is actually changing a little bit with that hyperdimension as well in the chorus. Now the trick to do this is, because we're going to hear some phasing issues, is actually set this to mono. So, and we also want to make sure that we put the legato, or the portamento on, sorry, and add it to about 45 milliseconds or thereabouts. Now the next thing is just to EQ this to taste. So I will probably just roll off a little bit off the low end, because when you start using the LFO rate adjustment, it can get quite piercing on the lower frequencies, so you probably want to roll that off a little bit. You want to bring this down to about 172 or thereabouts. Bring down the Q a little bit and bring down the gain pretty much all the way to the bottom. Maybe off the top we just want to bring this down slightly, just a little bit. Increase the Q, leave the frequency thereabouts, maybe just up to 2975 or thereabouts. And what we want to do is actually use envelope 2 we've created here to actually modulate the gain on that upper harmonic. So what's going to happen is every single time the key is hit in that upper range, you're actually going to see these this part of the EQ kind of flutter a little bit. That's also based on the velocity of how hard the keys have been struck on the keyboard, or you're programming them. Next up, we will use the filter. Actually, before the filter, we will add. No, let's do the filter now. Put the filter down, and what we will do with this is actually leave the cutoff maybe just a little bit past halfway. And then the last thing to do is just go down to envelope 3, bring the attack up to about 12 milliseconds, decay down to 0, sustain down to 0, hold down to 0, and the release to about 15. And that's actually going to give you the overall plucky sound. Now, there's a lot of external processing to this synth also. So I'm running a Ableton amp across it, just really boosting a little bit of the mids in there. Not a hell of a lot, just a little bit of dry wet on there. It's about 8%. Some saturation. I'm running a fat filter Saturn just to bring up those other harmonics, especially in the upper and kind of mid to low frequencies. Some drum bass, which actually gives us some extra compression. Some overdrive as well, not a hell of a lot, only about 11%. Some more saturation, another overdrive, and some heavy EQing. Now, Also a OTT at the end of it, and an Oxford limiter, which just kind of, this thing is magic. If you haven't got it, I suggest that you do. Just really brings the sounds up in volume without actually bringing up the volume. It's the easiest way I can explain it. One of the other things to do to this sound was I actually put a Isotope Trash 2 on the return channel, and that just really helped me get that extra crunchiness in the sound. Now, the other thing that Artbat do is actually do a lot of automation with the LFO. So, I mean, you can do this inside Serum, but I just find it way too confusing automating some of those parameters. So, I actually figured it's a lot easier to do outside. Now, you can do this with any auto pan. I'm sure any other DAW will have this option. But you can use an auto pan, and really all you need to do is just put the phase down to 0, set the amount to 100, and automate the rate. And you can actually see the automation here, and I'll let you hear what that sounds like. Now, one of the things that I can hear in Artbat's tracks is whenever it hits kind of like this lower octave, the bass is really, really heavy. So I actually think they've got another layer underneath, which is helping kind of beef up that low end. Now, this is probably as close as I could get it within, you know, this small tutorial and using Serum. But I'm sure they do layer a couple of other kind of lower, you know, deeper sounds in there to kind of beef up the sound. Or alternatively, they're actually automating the lower octave here in the EQ. Either way, this is probably as close as I could actually get it. So yeah, guys, this is it. I'll do one last playthrough for you. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Once again, this will be available for my patrons to download the entire project. Because of copyright, I've had to flatten a lot of the tracks, including the bass, because I don't own that patch. But the lead will be available, and the overall project in this breakdown will be available for you to play around with. So make sure you subscribe, follow me on Instagram at ShowJoseOfficial, and check out my Spotify at ShowJose. I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.